This video is a continuation of the reorder point. The last two examples we have to look at. Here the demand is constant, such as a production or a manufacturing. They know absolutely how many units they will use of something, but what may be variable is the lead time. And so you notice here it says average lead time, and they give a standard deviation for lead time. There is no standard deviation for demand, so we know that demand is constant, and they have a service level of 0.97. So let's figure out what the z-score is first of all. Remember, on the exam we'll tell you what the z-score is, or you can look it up, or in Excel we can use this function that we showed you, NORMS, inverse, the normal statistical inverse, and we put the probability in there, and it will give us the z-score. So 1.88 is the z-score for this. And so we'll notice that this is the second formula on the formula sheet. We've talked about these three. Here the demand is constant, but we have an average lead time. So we would have to figure out the normal reorder point. The normal reorder point is just the daily demand times that average lead time. But then we're going to have to carry a certain amount of safety stock here. Z comes from our confidence level times the daily demand times the standard deviation of lead time. So let's go ahead and calculate that. So our normal reorder point would simply be the demand times the average lead time. That would give us 5,000. So if there was no variability in the system, both demand and lead time were constant, 5,000 would be where we would reorder, because 4 days later we would be at 0 and would need to reorder whatever our economic or quantity told us. But here, because lead time varies, we need to calculate that. So if we go back to the formula, you'll see that it's just a matter of multiplying all these together, z times daily demand times the standard deviation of lead time. So let's do this times the daily demand times the standard deviation here. And so we're going to add 23,510 to that, and so that's going to give us this idea here that we have our reorder point then becomes the 5,000 plus the safety stock, in this case 23,510. And so our reorder point becomes 73,510. Now let's take a look at the last one here. The last one is obviously the most complex. In this example, the demand varies, and there's a standard deviation. This, I believe, is cigars. We don't know what the, it averages about 200. It does give it in week, and that's fine. The lead time is also in weeks, so you just need to double check that. It doesn't matter what unit as long as they match. So that lead time is given in days, and we need the demand in days. If lead time is given in weeks, we need the demand in weeks. In this case, the demand is given in weeks. 200 cigars a week is the average, with a standard deviation of 25 cigars. And the lead time also varies here, so 6 weeks with a standard deviation of 2 weeks, and they only want a service level of 90%. So once again, let's calculate the actual z-score here, doing the inverse of the normal statistical distribution. So it's 1.28 is the z-score. And now we just need to follow this formula. Now we have a number of things that need to be squared here. So it looks like the average daily demand needs to be squared, the standard deviation lead time needs to be squared, and the standard deviation to band needs to be squared. So I'm going to go ahead and square those. So we know that this one needed to be squared. So in Excel we use the caret sign, which is above the number 6 on the keyboard, and 2, that's how we do exponents in Excel. And then we need to do the standard deviation of lead time. So we will have squared everything that we need to in regards to this formula here. So I squared the standard deviation demand, I've squared the standard deviation lead time, and I've squared the average daily demand. Now it's a matter of multiplying average lead time times demand. This part of the equation will take care of basically the first part, the average daily demand, and then this part takes care of the lead time variability. So really this formula is a combination of the two earlier ones. So let's go ahead and do that. So we will calculate this here. So this is average lead time times the standard, or the square of the standard. So average lead time is this times the square of the standard deviation demand. So that's the first part of that equation. Average lead time times the standard deviation of deviation squared. Then we'll take the average daily demand squared. So average daily demand squared times, in this case we're going to use the standard deviation lead time squared, and that will give us this part of the equation here. We then add those two together, and we're going to take the square root of those. So SQRT is how we do square roots in Excel. We pull up that function, and it's this plus this, close parentheses. So add those together, take the square root of those. That gives us 404, and then of course we need to do the 1.28. So let's do this last part here. The z-score, given our service level of 90%, times that. We are going to carry 519 extra cigars to address the safety stock, given the variability of demand and the variability of lead time. And so our reorder point, instead of just the well, I guess we haven't figured out the normal reorder point. Let's go ahead and do that. The normal reorder point is simply the average daily demand times the number of the lead time in weeks. And so it's 1,200, but that would be fine if there wasn't any variability, but we know that demand's variable and lead time's variable, and so this is actually that reorder point plus this additional safety stock. And so we're going to carry, in this case, an extra 519 cigars, so at 1,719 we will reorder. And so that is all you need to know in regards to reorder points. So you have both a very simplistic model where they tell you what the lead time is, the lead time demand, so they've actually figured out that reorder point, and then you simply, there's a little bit of variability in the demand. They tell you what that standard deviation is, and then you simply multiply it by whatever z-score, given the confidence or the service level you want. The other three, and the formula is listed on your formula sheet. So like I said, the first one is simply a kind of a simplified version of this first one where they've already calculated the reorder point. They'll give you a confidence level that you'll find out the Z, and then you'll just multiply by the standard deviation of demand. It'd be more proper for them to actually give you the lead time, and so you can actually add to that. Because the reason why we want to really know this is that the longer the lead time, the more you're going to want to add. If there's a fair amount of deviation demand, 1 day or 2 days is not so bad compared to 20 days. So if that's the lead time, and so that's why it's important to have this modification. So once again, these are the three main formulas that you will use on the exam. The first one is if demand varies and lead time is constant. The second one, daily demand is constant and lead time is what varies. And the last one, both of them vary. And if you follow the formulas as written, you should get the right answer.